Life, Love, and Lipstick.
Welcome to Life, Love, and Lipstick with Leslie Stewart and myself, Tracy Lynn. We do have a special guest joining our sisterhood this week. Well, it's a topic that I know I bring up constantly, and it's been that weight gain issue. Some say pandemic, others say hormones, age. I say it's a little bit of everything. Yeah. Plus, I have been very lazy because of this pandemic, but summertime, I want my summer body back.
Yes. Well, and that's, we decided to bring on Barry Vincent. He is a personal trainer and owner of Built in Binbrook, Ontario. And Barry, you're with us right now. Your cool background, The coolest background ever.
Wow.
Ever?
Yeah, that's a good one. I have to admit.
Thank you.
So thanks for coming on the show with us, because you have a really great platform on Instagram, Built by Barry, and people can log on. And we'll put the information on at the end of the show. But you are always putting on really great little facts for both males and females when it comes to, training, working out, nutrition. And we thought, yeah, as Tracy said, you should be part of our sisterhood.
I'm happy to be part of the sisterhood.
So Tracy, shoot, because I know, Tracy, you've been mentioning, as you say, all year, you just feel off, just like pretty much everybody.
I do. I feel, you know what it is? I wouldn't really say it's a lot of weight gain. It's squishiness.
Okay.
One thing that I do is I do a lot of sound effects because there's no words to describe that feeling. It's like, ugh, but it's like this, everything's kind of gone soft all of a sudden because we haven't had access to gyms or to trainers such as yourself. And I think a lot of us got into this mind frame of, ugh, and it's hard. So let's talk about, I guess you have to be in the right mind frame if we're going to be dedicated to this.
You definitely do. I think what a lot of people have done during this pandemic is just kind of sat around waiting for motivation to come. Right. And like, as a personal trainer, it's a conversation that I have with people a lot, and something that I talk about too on social media is like, you're never going to have success if you're just waiting around for motivation to come to you. Like, you can go out and find motivation. I know some people like to watch YouTube videos, or, they have their favorite music that motivates them or whatever, but motivation is fleeting. Motivation isn't going to be like, once motivation comes, it's not going to stick around. It's going to come and it's going to go. And in my experience, the best way to keep yourself motivated is to just take action on whatever it is that you're trying to do. And then the motivation will come. Once you get started, you push yourself to take that first step, whatever it is. And we can talk a little bit more about that, because that first step is going to be different for everybody, right? Depending on where you're starting from. But it just keeps coming back to, like, action is what breeds motivation. And it's not really the other way around, especially when it comes to having long-term success, right?
And I think that's what the pandemic has done, because it's like these unprecedented times, right? And we kind of didn't think we were going to, of course, we didn't even imagine we'd be in this as long as we have been. So at first people were like, oh, okay. And people were day drinking and eating way too many snacks, right? And then we realized, okay, we're not off just for 2 weeks, like the government told us. Now we're off for 6 months and a year, and really got out of that sort of that pattern or, schedule that people had, right? They weren't going to their jobs and then maybe working out before or after. So it threw people off. And, as I think, as Tracy mentioned too, like you kind of lose that you just mentally, you don't feel good. And it's really hard to get the up and just go. Right. So it's like, that's what I did at first. The first part of the year, I was like, I couldn't get motivated. And finally I said, you know what, I need to just jump into it. Like you just suggested. Yeah. So, okay. So we're obviously more female based on this show. So that's where we really wanted to drive it, Barry, where, women working out, say in their 30s versus women working out in their 60s or older. Obviously there are some accommodations, but maybe what's some of the general rule for everybody, the common thread, and then maybe what are some things we should look at differently?
I think that when it comes to men and women, there's a lot more similarities than a lot of people think, especially when you look at like the media and the way exercise is marketed to females and the way that it's marketed to males. But achieving, like, whether or not your goal is to lose weight or gain muscle, obviously it's just gaining muscle is a more common goal for males, and weight loss is a very common goal for women. But going about attaining those two goals is the same, whether you're female or male, right? If you want to lose fat, you need to eat a little bit less. You need to find that ideal number of calories, protein, fat, carbohydrates that works for you. that's going to get you those sustainable results that you want. Obviously, there are crash diets and high intensity workouts that you can do that are probably going to get you a fair amount of results, maybe even a lot of results in a short amount of time. But that super rapid and unsustainable diet is going to get you super rapid and unsustainable results, right? If you can take a more balanced and sustainable approach, then you're going to have more sustainable results, which I think is what a lot of people want in the long run. Sure, there's exceptions to make if you have a vacation coming up or you have a wedding coming up and it's crunch time and you want to lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time. For sure, it's not recommended, but I can understand why somebody would want to look good in their wedding photos. But if this is for the long haul, if you're trying to improve your health and you're trying to lose weight for your health, you definitely want to take a sustainable approach. I'm not even sure if I answered your question.
Well, no, pretty much. I mean, you know what? It was a loaded question, right? It's a loaded question. So it's like where, when I think people look at, oh, maybe I should just go run and cardio versus say strength training. Some people think that just running is going to do it all, but we really do need to do the strength training.
Of course, especially when you talk about like the health benefits that come with it, because a lot of people think about exercise and even dieting as just this like on and off switch that you turn on, like when you start to feel soft, like Tracy said, okay, it's time to flip on that exercise switch, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas exercise and some kind of healthy eating, even if it is a balanced approach to healthy eating that just is helping you to maintain your weight and maintain your health, it doesn't always have to be about weight gain versus weight loss. It can just be about sustaining the weight that you're at and feeling comfortable and living healthy and just feeling good in your body, right? It doesn't always have to be about that loss or gain. But we go back to Tracy talking about, I'm not even sure if we were on air yet, but not that necessarily the feeling of having put on weight, but that feeling of just being soft, right? And that probably comes from not doing the workouts that she was doing before. I haven't even really had a chance to talk to Tracy about it, but if she was doing some kind of strength training before the pandemic hit, maybe not much has changed with the way she's eating, but she's not doing that strength training to be maintaining or building strength and muscle mass, then that's kind of how you might come to that conclusion that now you're feeling a little bit of soft. Maybe you haven't gained any weight, but you're feeling soft because maybe you've lost a little bit of muscle, right?
Yeah, it's hard to get back on that because when you have that mentality to work out all the time, especially when you've always been more on the leaner side and you see your muscles being built, and it takes forever. It seems like it takes forever to build muscle. And then as soon as you stop, that's it. You've lost like years worth of buildup. And one thing I know that a lot of people will say, especially females, it's hormones. Certain foods I can't eat. It upsets my stomach. I always say, well, I'm bloated. Now there's a ratio, a balance of food and exercise, because it's not just exercise that's going to lose the weight. And that is also something you specialize in, which is like nutrition and helping people out with that, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. What's that ratio to it? Because you know what, I'll tell you guys right now, you know what I just bought? I bought one of those food scales.
Oh,
yep.
Yes. Because,
it's getting intense. It's getting intense. I like it.
I'm getting ready.
Ripping it up.
Getting real. Yes, it's very much like, I hate to say it, but it's an 80-20 thing. And it's the 80, unfortunately, is the nutrition side of things, especially if your goal is weight loss, right? But I think women in particular, they take it from they work in extremes. They don't want to find that middle ground, because if you want to lose weight, you want to put yourself in a position where you can eat the most amount of food possible while still losing weight sustainably, right? And a lot of women in particular will take the approach of like 1 week they're eating 1,800 or 1,900 calories a day, be like, okay, it's diet time. We're going to 1,200.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you will have, like I said earlier, you will have great, probably fast results from that, but they won't be sustainable because you're depriving yourself of a lot of foods that you're used to eating, a lot of foods that you enjoy. And before you know it, you find yourself back where you were. And then the weight gain seems to come on even quicker at that point. But going back to what you said about women like to blame their hormones and stuff like that, my general response, and it's a little bit harsh, is like, if you think you have a problem with your hormones, go to your doctor. You can't just stand around blaming your hormones for your weight gain. if there's something wrong with your hormones, you need to
do.
see a doctor.
Yeah,
What's
it
that?
just seems like it's an easy thing to do. And I understand that
Yeah.
hormones do mess with your body because my body has changed from that. But it's just so easy to say, oh, I'll blame it on this or I'll blame it on that. And when you talk about like having like 1900 a day, and you try to just, put it down to half of that, you're depriving your body. Now that I thought that intermittent fasting and stuff like that was really good when you're eating less and going longer.
Intermittent fasting is good because intermittent fasting is a simple way to, and pretty much all diets work this way. If you were to unpack it, you're removing, in the sense of intermittent fasting, you're removing a whole meal from your day essentially. So if we were to consider that a meal in itself is 400, 500 calories, instantly you're cutting your daily food intake. There isn't really any magic behind intermittent fasting. You're just removing an entire meal from your day. And if you look at something like the keto diet, again, most people look at keto. It's a little bit more complicated than just removing carbohydrates from your diet, but that's how a lot of people look at it. And if you're removing an entire food group from your diet, that could be anywhere from 400 to 500 calories a day. And if we're eating 1900 calories a day, all of a sudden now you're eating 1400. Yeah, you're going to lose weight. But what if you're eating 1900 calories a day and we just make the choice of, we start weighing our food, still trying to fit in those foods that you enjoy, and we go from 1900 calories to 1700 calories a day, and we weigh you at the beginning of those first 2 weeks and we weigh you after 2 weeks, and we see that you've lost 2 pounds. We don't, in my world and the way that I like to do things, 2 pounds of weight loss, if it's body fat and if it's coming from a good place, 2 pounds in 2 weeks is good and it's sustainable. And if you can do that over the course of a year, that's 52 pounds. I don't think anybody would be upset with losing 52 pounds. You know what I mean? And then and a lot of people will make the mistake of using something like keto again as that like on and off switch, where you are losing 30 pounds in 2 months, but you're losing that same 30 pounds 2 or 3 times over the course of the year while you're flipping that on and off switch.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Makes sense.
You know what I mean? You'll hear people say like, oh, I always have great results whenever I do keto.
Yeah.
What do you mean whenever you do keto? You either want to do keto or you don't.
Right.
Right. And it's not sustainable, right? I'm very much about things that are sustainable. And if you're tracking your calories and if you're strength training and if you're doing what you can to put on muscle mass, and that's another topic that I know can be sensitive for the female crowd, and we can get into that if you want. But you want to put yourself in a position to eat as many calories as you can a day while still lose weight sustainably, and strength and muscle mass plays a huge role in that.
Sure. I know when we're talking about sustainability, I know the one thing that seems to work for me from more of a personal standpoint is the intermittent fasting. So I know for sure I will never eat I'll always leave at least a 12-hour window. So, and the easiest thing to do, I think some people look at it as, oh my gosh, I can't eat. But if you do it at night, if you eating dinner by 7 and you don't eat again till 7 the next morning, well, you're sleeping most of the time and then showering and getting ready. That's a piece of cake. So I do at least 12. And then sometimes I'll do a 14 or a 16. And I know women don't have to do as much as men. But I find that one's an easy one just for anybody listening. I mean, even just start with that. And it works. And I combine that with strength training and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's good. It's effective.
It does work very well for some people, but then again, some people are just breakfast people. Yeah. Some people notice that when they intermittent fast, they don't eat in the morning. They feel lighter. Their head feels clearer. Things like that. I personally am not one of those people. I like to have breakfast every day. I love breakfast food, in particular, eggs. Big egg guy. So for me, I do have a lot of experience with intermittent fasting in the past. The leanest that I've ever gotten was intermittent fasting, but it wasn't something that was sustainable for me. So I went back, and now these days I rock a bit of a dad bod, and that's fine.
But dad bods are different than the dad bods that you traditionally would assume.
Yes.
It's an untraditional dad bod.
Yes.
For sure.
That's exactly what it is.
It's a dad bod 2.0. You
mentioned, I have to mention this just on a side note, and we'll get back on track, but looking at your social media, it's so funny because you have 2 little ones. And the other day you posted, what we all get thrown off as we're talking, over a year of pandemic, but also just on a daily basis. We had big plans to work out and eat well one day. And you were saying that one day, your son Carson just didn't sleep that day, no nap. And so you just
Yeah.
took him down and did a quick couple reps and got some stuff in. Even just in a
Yep.
short period of time, you can be effective. And he's like rolling around on the floor and he's just there, but you still did something.
Yep. Something is always going to be better than nothing.
Yeah.
And especially in these times when, I don't know if some people are very busy. Like I'm still very much busy, but some people aren't. And in either situation, you just have to understand that anything is going to be better than nothing, whether it's 10-minute walk versus no walk, or 10-minute workout versus no workout, whatever it is, and whether or not it's 10 minutes, like a common piece of advice I'll try to give people is like, try to walk 30 minutes a day. And people will think is like, where am I going to find 30 minutes in my day to work out? It honestly doesn't matter if it's 6 5-minute walks or 3 10-minute walks or 5 6-minute walks. It doesn't matter how you break it up. It's just something that I want you to do. You don't have to take that 30 minutes and try to like insert it somewhere in your day. Split it up however you want. And I mean, really, you could do that. It'd be a little bit more complicated to do that with strength training. Obviously, you're not going to like go do bicep curls for 5 minutes at 1 o'clock and then come downstairs and do squats at 2 o'clock for 5 minutes. Obviously, it's a little bit more complicated with that, but it would work if that was something that worked for you.
Sure.
Yeah. I love that you're a realist, because I'm listening to you say 2 weeks, 2 pounds. And in my mind, I'm like, but I want to lose like 10 pounds in 1 week.
Yeah.
Like I want to drop it fast and then try to maintain it. But is it true that when you lose a lot of weight instantly, that you gain more back when you don't try to sustain that? Like those fad diets?
Yes, that can for sure happen. And a lot of that has to do with you're gonna some of the muscle that you, or some of the weight that you lose when you do those rapid weight loss things is muscle. And muscle plays a huge role in keeping your metabolism healthy. And again, putting you in a position where your body is burning more calories at rest, which allows you to eat more food throughout the day, which is just easier. Like the society that we live in does not lend itself well to depriving yourselves of things like alcohol and eating at restaurants and treats and all that stuff. That's just not the world that we live in, unfortunately. It'd be easier if it was, but we just live in a world where we're surrounded by processed food. And people who eat, it's been shown in studies that people who eat a lot of processed food, they consume like up to 500 calories on average more a day. That alone, 500 calories a day, is enough to keep somebody from losing weight or keep them consistently gaining weight a little bit at a time, right?
Yeah.
So you want to put yourself in a position where you can eat as much as possible. I guess I can't really say that enough. You want to be able to eat as much as you can while losing weight.
And I guess it's the choices too. And that's something that you put on your social as well. Like you call it simple nutrition. So you're like, here's the alternative to this. And I know when I work out personally, I am very hungry. I eat a lot of food. And like you said, eggs, I could just eat everything all day. Simple nutrition. Let's talk about females. And, it's important to build that muscle, because as we age, we need it, and it is harder to gain. What simple nutrition tips do you have for females? Because you said it was like 80% nutrition versus and 20% gym. And I mean, you're giving us 100% when we work out with you, but what's your tips or advice or anything?
Most women could benefit from including more protein in their diet, because protein is very satiating. It keeps you full. It lends itself well to that idea of strength training and muscle mass, not muscle mass in the way that you're going to wake up one day and be like, oh my God, what happened? My sleeves are ripping. I just mean in the sense that everybody could benefit from having a little bit of muscle and strength in their life. Protein aids itself very well in that sense. Sleep is a big one as well when it comes to weight loss, especially in this day and age. Again, it's just the life that we live, where it is. And people are staying up at night, not just like on their phones and stuff, but reading bad news all the time. You know what I mean? It puts you in a place where it's hard to get a good quality sleep if you're just looking at this screen in front of your face, just scrolling through bad news and comparing yourself to other people. It just puts you in a bad place to get a bad night's sleep. And I'm guilty of it as well. Sleep, obviously, vegetables are very important, and not necessarily in the sense that a lot of people think. Because when I say you want to eat vegetables to lose weight, people naturally will think, well, that's because they're full of vitamins and nutrients that are going to help me lose weight, right? And it's like, well, no. Vegetables are very, what we would call nutritionally dense foods, which means that you can eat a lot of vegetables without consuming a lot of calories. Think about how big a bowl, like what's 200 calories worth of, let's say just chocolate. What's 200 calories worth of chocolate look like versus 200 calories worth of spinach or broccoli in a salad? It's like a bowl this big. And if you eat that, it's going to fill you up. You're not going to feel like eating after that. So there's nothing magic. A lot of people look for the magic in things. There's not really magic in eating more vegetables. It's more filling. And yes, the nutritional value of vegetables is going to allow your body to do its thing a little bit more effectively. You're going to feel better when you do workouts. You're going to perform better in the gym, which obviously is going to carry over and benefit your weight loss efforts. But the real magic behind eating a lot of vegetables is just that they keep you full when you're not supposed to be eating as much.
And there's also the good fats component as well, right? So I find when I make a salad, if I do have, an egg on there, but also having some olives or an olive oil, or, maybe some, like, not everybody, some people will cringe, but I like sardines. So, but having,
I like them too.
Do you? Yeah. So does my son.
I don't eat them a lot, but I do eat them.
If I don't know that they're there, I will eat them.
Really? Yeah. So, but
Why
that
not?
wine really fills me when I add that fat component too, right? Yeah. Satiating.
Fat is also very satiating, and fat probably more so. Again, we were talking about the vegetables and the nutritional density, especially depending on what kind of fat you're eating. There is a lot of like nutritional benefits to your body, right? Again, we talk about hormones, hormone balance, things like that, but you do have to watch out for overconsumption of fat. A lot of people give carbs the blame when it comes to things that you overconsume. Very rarely is it carbs alone. If you think about, if I get, like, I'm sure, I don't know about you guys, but I could eat an entire bag of chips in one sitting, no problem. And there's like 6 potatoes in a large bag of chips. I could probably eat a whole bag of potato chips in about 10 minutes. But if I just boiled 6 potatoes and put it in a bowl in front of you,
not a chance.
You're like, why would I eat that? But when we start to add salt and add fat, right? We make these foods far more appealing, but we're also cramming them full of calories, right? So it's not necessarily the carbs that are the culprit. It's when you start adding in either fat and salt or fat and sugar that they start to become problematic, and they start to become a lot more appealing and a lot more prone to overeating. But when we go back to talking about fat, you have to be careful because fat is very calorie dense. Like there's not a lot of fatty foods that aren't dense with calories. And that's because if we were to look at those basic macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fat, protein has 4 calories per gram and carbs have 4 calories per gram, but fat has 9 calories per gram. So when you think about like avocado and salad dressing and fish, fattier cuts of meat and things like that, those things start to add up from a calorie standpoint. And if you're eating too many calories, you're just not going to lose weight.
Right.
And right now,
simple nutrition.
Yeah. It's too simple though, but
sorry
about potato chips, chocolate, all the good stuff.
Taking it all, coming for everything.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Like that's what I'm saying though. Like if you are willing to track your food intake, right? Instead of just saying, I can't eat this or I can't eat that, and that's how I'm going to lose weight. If you actually take the time to start to track these things, it sounds like people make it sound like it's this big disciplinary thing. It's like, I don't want to be locked down by tracking my food. It's like, okay, but you're locked in by the fact that you are telling yourself you can't eat carbs.
Yeah. Right.
So like, what if tracking your food gave you the freedom to have a little piece of cake after dinner? You know what I mean? Or tracking your food, put yourself in a position where you know you're going to go out for this big dinner and drinks on Saturday, and you track your calories through the week to put yourself in a position where you know, like on Saturday, you could probably not even track anything and go do and eat whatever you want. And it's not really going to affect you that much in the long term because you lowered your calorie intake a little bit throughout the week to make up for it.
Okay, I might be able to do that.
It's like you think about it like Hugh back there, he's working the dials. You know what I mean? You just you can tweak your dials. You want to get to this position where you know how to tweak your dials to allow yourself a little bit more freedom.
Yeah. Now, speaking of lockdown, we have been in this lockdown pandemic, and a lot of people have used the excuse, well, you know what? Gyms were closed. I don't have access to a lot of equipment. I I can't do this. I'm bored of walking. I'm sick of walking. But you offer online as well. So that is one way. And I know one of your posts, it said, how to work out with limited equipment.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that's something you do, right?
I do online training. I work best with people who have at least a little bit of equipment at home, and that's just personal preference mostly. Writing, it's been a year and a half. I am quite honestly sick of writing body weight workouts for people. It's not very fun. I'm a weight training guy. I'll do it if I need to do it, but I'm just being honest with you guys.
Yeah.
It's not the funnest thing to write workouts that are like nothing but body weight and bands.
Mhm.
But on the plus side of things, a lot of those excuses, those pandemic excuses, before people were like, oh, I can't find workout equipment anywhere.
Right.
Well, that
People
was
still
true
use it.
at one point.
It was, but it is very much not now.
No,
And
very
people
much
still
so.
people still use that excuse every day. I don't know where to find equipment. You can find equipment at any equipment store, like Walmart. Most Walmarts now are carrying dumbbells.
Shoppers Drug Mart.
I actually shouldn't say that, because you can't buy dumbbells at Walmart. You would have to order them online.
Yeah. Yeah, but you can though. I
You
ordered
can.
some hand weights because I had some of the big click weights and I found them a little bit cumbersome. They're too big for what I wanted to do. So I ordered
Yep.
some hand weights and I was able to get them. I'm just going to put a little shout out to Shoppers Drug Mart, but you can order them through their medical side where they have all the supplies, and they delivered them to my front door.
Yeah,
And
they'll do that.
cost effective.
Yeah.
I know Fitness Depot in Ancaster. I don't know if we're talking mostly to local people here, but Fitness Depot in Ancaster, they have dumbbells, plates, barbells in stock, and they get more stock regularly. You just call them, tell them what you want. You can't go into the store, obviously, right now. Hopefully that changes in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But you just call them, tell them what you want. You go pick it up. They have it ready for you. There's tons of websites like that you can
No excuses,
go
right,
online.
Barry?
And let's be honest.
I mean, there are excuses for sure. There are excuses, but you got to find a way to work your way around them. Just like, as we're all parents, right? Are we all?
Yes.
All parents. Kids provide plenty of excuses. You can't really get around. Like, there's those excuses, but kids are a pretty valid excuse. They take up a lot of your time, often unexpectedly. But you have to find a way. Like, if you have a goal in mind, you have to find a way to work around it. Otherwise, yes, they are just excuses.
Yeah, and
I kind of lost my train of thought there.
well, and also if you don't have access to equipment and you do have that excuse, you can always use jugs of water.
You can, yes, you can use jugs. I have seen some stuff over the past year and a half. I have seen laundry detergent jugs and fertilizer bags and you name it.
Little kids
I
are
have
great.
seen it. Yeah, little kids. I've done that mostly just for the gram. But
And now you said you like the more of the weightlifting aspect of that.
I do.
And I love weightlifting. That was probably one of my most favorite thing because I liked that you could dial in on a certain, like your shoulders and have that look. And in what I love about this, and I've heard other people say this, they're like, oh, you can't do it anymore. You're getting older. I'm like, no, working out and weights, it's like ageless, right?
It's it's definitely ageless, but the sooner you get into it, and do it in a way that is sustainable. Some people get into it and they go,
they're like right into
balls to the walls, if you will. They end up injured, and if you end up injured, it sets you back. You can't exercise anymore. You want to exercise. Like, if I was to go back and tell myself, to say something to myself when I was 20, I would tell myself to train a little bit more like I train now. Like, one thing that I guess pride myself in here at the studio that I run out of my house, I call it Lift Personal Training Binbrook. I have a lot of like specialty equipment that allows people to do common strength training exercises in like unconventional ways. So a lot of people are kind of think when you tell them that they need to squat with weight, they think that it means they need to squat with a barbell on their back. A lot of people, especially older people, they have shoulder issues, they have hip issues that don't allow them to do that. So I have specialty barbells that have handles in the front that are easier on the shoulders, but still allows them to use relatively a lot of weight, right? A lot of weight for them. You know what I mean? The majority of adults can squat a whole lot more than a 20-pound dumbbell, but they're reluctant to right? I have tons of female clients who weigh 120, 130 pounds, and they're squatting their body weight. They're deadlifting 1.5 times their body weight. They don't like blow up with muscle overnight. They just feel strong and they feel empowered. And the other thing about it is that it's another metric that we can keep an eye on, because the scale isn't always going to move. And you can get very discouraged if you have no other information to go off of besides the scale. You need to pay attention to, if you're doing strength training, maybe the scale doesn't go down, but you're deadlifting 30 pounds more than you were 3 months ago, or you're squatting more, or you're bench pressing more, or you can now do a full body weight chin up when you couldn't before, or you do push-ups without having your knees on the floor when you couldn't before. There's all these other metrics. And I mean, obviously the way your pants fit and all that other stuff is other ways to measure progress, but you just want to have as much information to work with as you can to measure success. And again, keep yourself motivated, like we talked about earlier.
Numbers, that took me a long time to realize in life, that the numbers, don't obsess over numbers, especially when you are working out and you're taking a fit lifestyle, because muscle does weigh more, right?
And I posted the other day just a picture of like 10 pounds weight loss looked like for one of my online clients. And it's literally just, it goes down, but it's like a roller coaster. It's this downward spiral. This, like, it's down 2, up 1.5, down 3, up 1. You know what I mean? It's just this roller coaster. Don't get
discouraged when you see that.
And the more things you have to feel motivated about, like how you feel stronger. And when people, I guess this just kind of came to me now, if running, for example, running outside is like your primary form of exercise, I mean, most people, especially adults who run every day, they feel like crap. Their knees are sore, their hips are sore, everything is sore. And at some point, I spoke about this recently on Instagram, cardio is something where in order to get more benefits from cardio, like the better you get at cardio, the more cardio you need to do to get results, right? Because if you say you run a kilometer, one day, you do it in X amount of time, and the next day you run a kilometer again, the more efficient you get and the easier running feels for you. That just means your body's getting more efficient at using calories, which means you're burning less calories running that 1 kilometer. Strength training, on the other hand, you make it harder on yourself, right? You have to increase your output of energy. So, I mean, if we're going to talk strictly about calories, the harder you push yourself in the gym, obviously, the more calories you're going to burn, but also the harder you push yourself in the gym, the stronger you're going to get. The more, I don't want to say more makes it sound aggressive, the more muscle you're going to put on. Maybe we should talk a little bit about muscle mass, but muscle mass is very, very hard. It's very, very hard to put on muscle mass. And I think that people don't really appreciate that enough. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent there.
No, Barry, that's a good point though. I mean, why don't we talk about that? Because there are females out there still that believe that they pick up a weight that they're going to all of a sudden get bulky and look like a dude. And you don't.
The fine line between lean and manly. When it comes,
there is not a fine line. There is a very wide gap between those two things.
And it takes a while, right? To look behind. I mean, we can't even like shift like that to look like a man like that.
Oh God, no. Well, there's guys, like if you go to any gym, you could go to, I mean, obviously you can't right now, but if you were to go to a Good Life, and being somebody who's been a personal trainer for 10 years, I don't work in a big box gym anymore, but there'd be guys who would come to the gym 7 days a week and weight train and eat everything under the sun. And after a year, they look the same.
Yep.
Right. And you're going to tell me that you're afraid from lifting a little bit of weight a few times a week, that you're going to, I mean, at this point, there's enough information out there where it's kind of just an excuse.
But I like that there's alternatives to that. And like working with you, you're a trainer, you're educated, you know how you're going to teach us how to do this and not get hurt. And I think the whole thing is like taking that fear, like Leslie said, women feel like as soon as they hit a weight, they're going to look masculine.
Yep. And I think, I mean, it's kind of maybe a larger scale issue. There was this time period where women were uncomfortable training on the dude side of the gym.
Yeah.
Right. And now, like, this is actually just kind of coming to me now. The younger women have kind of taken that and run with it. But at the same time, they've also created maybe even another intimidating situation for maybe some of the women who are not as young, not as in shape as those women. Because if you go, again, to A Good Life Now, it's all the guys, and it's all different kinds of guys. They're not all super fit, but in the weight training area, there is a lot of females now, but most of them fall under that category of fit girl.
Yes.
Fit girl.
Yes. Because they
so
feel
that almost creates another
confident.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah. The fit girl feels more confident to walk into basically the jungle. Right.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. That's exactly what it is.
You're like,
Confident,
I got this. I use that.
confident, or they also like the attention, right?
Perhaps. So
we could talk about on its own for an hour, but
yeah,
we're trying to help people.
I think what's great about weight training is, I just find that's what really changes the appearance of your body, because when you're using, those opposing muscles, and so you're using your biceps and triceps, and they start to just get that nice shape, and they're pulling together, and they and your shoulders, as Tracy mentioned, all of a sudden you see the proper curves, and everything's all just pulling together. I think it's amazing what it can do, actually fairly quickly.
Yep, absolutely. And that's just like the body composition benefits. You don't talk about the benefits of just overall longevity, and the fact that strength training regularly literally reduces your chances of dying from any cause. They say it reduces your chances of all cause mortality. You know what I mean? Like that alone, in my opinion, should be enough for you to want to at least look into picking up some weight sometimes.
Exactly.
But obviously, for most people, the most appealing part of weight training would be the benefits that it has on long-term sustainable weight loss or muscle gain, if muscle gain is your goal. But mostly those, I guess we call them the physical stuff, or the
you look good. You look good.
The appearance based.
Well, let's talk about the bikini right now. This is where I'm going to change gears. Okay, it's June 1st. It's beginning of June. Summer's like literally knocking on the door. Okay, and a lot of there may be some women that are like, okay, I want to call Barry. Either do some virtual, do some one-on-one. Hopefully, when things start opening up, realistically, what can I do in the next couple of weeks? Is it what are we looking at if we want to get into those bikinis again?
Drink only when necessary, I guess I would say. Drink when it's drink when it's social. Drink when it's social, and it's going to benefit you socially, and it's going to benefit you mentally. I'm not the kind of person who's going to tell you to cut out alcohol, but I am the kind of person who's going to tell you maybe you don't need to have 2 glasses of wine while you watch The Bachelor on a Tuesday.
I should go with tequila, right? Because tequila is supposed to be the best if you are trying to lose weight.
It's tequila, like the hard liquors are if we're going to get technical, but those are lower in calories, right? If you are somebody who can drink vodka on the rocks, or you can drink scotch on the rocks, sure.
Let's cut the alcohol out, because that's where I'm going.
Or limit it. I don't like to cut out anything, but definitely limit it. And then if you're going to go to a party on the weekend, focus more on the vodka-based seltzer drinks and things that are a little bit lighter in calories. Reduce your intake of processed foods, particularly those foods that are like combinations of sugar and fat, combinations of sugar and carbs, because what you'll find is none of those, those 2 combinations, especially fat and salt, they don't really exist naturally. If you think about it, right? There's not a lot of foods that combine those things naturally. It's all processed foods. And like I said, if you eliminate processed foods, most people would be fine to eliminate processed foods. They make a life a little bit easier, especially when you have kids and stuff. Sometimes those packaged foods are a little bit easier to have around, but reducing your intake of processed foods is probably going to cut a good 200 or 300 calories out of your day.
That's why it's deadly when you eat cheeseburger and fries and a pop, right? That combination of the fats and the sugars and all that's just not a good meal. Throw that one.
It's not, and you don't feel good after that, right? Get walks. Obviously you should be working out, but getting those walks in, because I don't really think you need to hit the gym super hard 5 or 6 days a week. 3 good strength training based workouts a week would be fine, on top of 30 minutes of walking or just trying to get 10,000 steps a day would be another pretty simple thing that you can try to do. Whether you track that with an Apple Watch or you make sure that you're getting 30 minutes of walking in a day. Most people will get pretty close to that 10,000 step mark. Sleep is an easy one. Obviously, when you're not sleeping, you're more stressed, you're holding on to more water. It's going to show a little bit more in your appearance. And
so
you're going to feel like, sorry, go ahead.
So would we be meeting up with you? Like, okay, because like I said, there's gonna be women that are watching this, and you're instantly gravitated to you because you've just kept it real. You know what you're doing. You've educated us. What would how many times a week would we actually be working out with you?
Most of my clients are 2 to 3 times a week. When I'm doing in-person training. Right now, it's pretty much entirely online. I don't do, and all of my online training is just programs and nutrition and check-ins and things like that. I'm not doing any like one-on-one Zoom training or anything like that. Hopefully, I also hope to be doing some outdoor stuff as soon as that's allowed.
Awesome.
Some outdoor group training either at my place up in Binbrook or over at the Binbrook Conservation Area. There's a beautiful spot there that I hope to be using on the water. Hopefully we can get back to officially doing indoor one-on-one training sooner than later. But mostly right now it's online. If you follow me on Instagram, again, at Built by Barry, that's where you would find any of that news. I should have more information on the outdoor stuff soon as we get a concrete date for when we're allowed to do it, which hopefully is in or around the 14th of June.
Awesome.
But that's pretty much it.
What it does is it just brings us back to the beginning, and where we started was from that lack of motivation, and you just got to take that step forward, right, Barry? So contact you, get out the door, get walking, get moving your body, and nice weather always helps motivate us, but we need to do more, right? Because we've all been suffering a little too much this year. So yeah.
Yep. And we over the entire course of this conversation, we haven't even really touched on the mental benefits of exercise, right? And that's something that we could all use right now. Is any kind of natural antidepressant is going to be good. And they say exercise in of itself can be more powerful than the most powerful antidepressant medication if done regularly and properly, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, you motivated me to get off my butt and keep doing something.
You got to.
Yep. Barry, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we'll make sure we have all your contact information up on our show notes. But again, it is at Built by Barry. If you want to check him out right now on Instagram and follow along. And we can't wait till everything opens up so that people can start getting in there and training with you. So thanks, Barry.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully people get some good stuff out of it. And hopefully I can talk to you guys again soon.
Very good.
You're part of the sisterhood now.
I'm part of the sisterhood. Sister Barry.
Barry.
Thank you. Have a great day. Leslie, we'll see you later this week.
Yep.
And everybody, I hope you've enjoyed another episode of Life, Love, and Lipstick.
Take care.
Life, Love, and Lipstick.